Hey guys, welcome back. It is the Dr. Cloud Show on a Friday edition. Here, your roving reporter out on the road again, but it's good to be with you from no matter where I am, because who knows where you are either. My hunch is that you're having fun because it is Friday and all your work's about to be done and you're going to play over the weekend, right? Hope so. If you are going to play the next little while here, though, that means that you get to participate in this show by calling. And the cool thing is that, in this show, it is a call-in show, or it is a audience participation show, I should say. And the way we do that is twofold. One, you can call in if you want to get it on the air. And I'm going to give the number in a moment for that. But also, we started a new thing. I don't know exactly when we started this, and I do need to, in order to do this, because I'm on the road, I have a little different setup today to be able to see your questions because they're going to be texting them to me. How about that? You can actually post your questions if you don't want to be on the air. And you can do that by posting on Facebook or Instagram or where else? YouTube, you can do that. And also, if you don't know, if you're new to the program, you can listen to the program as a podcast by downloading it wherever your podcasts are sold. But they're not sold, they're free. So you can do that. All righty, here's the number, 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774 to get on the program live. And as always, in the beginning of the show, the lines are probably open, so call Albie, and he'll get you on, 844-940-2774. And I've got an announcement here. We are having another one of our webinars. If you don't know, we've been having webinars. We have about every 6 weeks or so. And they have been so much fun interacting with you about different topics. Our last one was on trust. You can find that by going to boundaries.me/trust. If you want to watch that one, you can get it there. And the next one is one that I'm really, really excited about. And here's the official title now, Mentally Healthy Faith, Dr. Cloud's prescription for spiritual growth. Now, here's why I'm excited about this. As you probably know, I'm a clinical psychologist, which means I deal with life stuff, right? Our relationships and our depressions and anxieties and stress and energy levels and eating disorders and addictions and all that stuff, right? That we call clinical, but relationships and also our performance in life. Now, here's the thing. While I'm a clinical psychologist, I'm also a person of faith. And it's been a decades-long path for me to integrate those in terms of, how does faith affect our mental health, for good or bad? Because some ways that people do church, what some churches do, what some spiritual programs do, are very, very destructive to people's mental health. And they're not what the Bible says do, but people twist it to do some weird stuff. And for a long time, that's been a real, more of an interest. It's kind of a mission for me to understand how those two go together and how our mental health issues can actually be healed by good practices of faith. So this is going to be about all of that. And it's kind of how I look at the faith path and practices that are mentally healthy and also strong for faith development. So I want you to join me. It is, what is the date here? April the 12th, live at 5 p.m. Pacific. Now, if you can't be there live, like all of our webinars, you sign up for the live event, and then you can stream it whenever you want to, sort of like, HBO or Netflix or whatever. It's going to be there. You can stream it whenever you want to. So invite all your friends, have a big event at your house, or just watch it yourself. Mentally Healthy Faith, April 12th, and you sign up by going to boundaries.me/faith, boundaries.me/faith to get that event. Okay, so let's hop into, as we do every day, the thought for the day. And the thought for the day is something that the researchers call the 40% rule. And the 40% rule, basically, I don't exactly know if it came just out of brain science or out of performance science or exactly where it originated, but what they've discovered is basically that when we feel like we've hit our limit, we're not going to hit our limit when we're at our limit. We don't hit it at 100%. There's a 40% rule that says actually your brain will tell you that that's as far as you can go long before you've hit your actual limit. Long before you've hit your actual limit. It tells you that's all I got, that's all I got, that's all I got. Have you ever been to the gym, for example? I went once, and you've seen the trainers, when you're at the gym, or if you've had a trainer, you're going and they'll go, give me one more, come on, one more. And you do the one and they say, give me another one. And you go, you said one. And well, about, 40% or something, they keep pushing, and it's really, really is more than you thought you could do. And it's kind of a safety mechanism that's built into our whole organism, to kind of, it's sort of like, think of the RPMs on a car. You don't want to run it all the way as far, the engine can't take that. So, there's that red bar that starts really earlier than the engine can actually go. So you've got that built into your system. Well, that's great. You don't want to redline your life all the time. But when you're trying to get better in some area, you can go a little farther than you think you can. And in order to grow, we got to go a little farther than we think we can, because that limit is going to kick in before we even get to the limit of what we're able to do. And what we're actually trying to do is do more than we were able to do yesterday, right? So we're trying to even go kind of almost sort of, and there's some things wrong with this, but almost a little past 100% to stretch ourselves in a way. You don't want to injure yourself, but what we're trying to do, we're trying to grow, is go as far as we can until we either can't or we're hurting ourselves in a way that's not good to hurt. You don't want to do that, but you do want to go farther than is comfortable. Now think about how this 40% rule actually works. Think about this, where it works. If you thought about maybe a difficult conversation you got to have with somebody, and you're thinking, well, I've kind of confronted that problem about as far as I can go. I mean, well, maybe not. Maybe there's much more percentage points than your comfort level that you can call them and meet with them and really, really hash out that conflict. Or maybe in getting over some fear or anxiety, maybe you can go into that scary situation and stay a little longer than you did last time. Or maybe you can work on some task and push yourself a little harder in reaching a goal than you ever did before. You know where I experienced this and have experienced it in my life the most is in writing books. I don't, some of you might have written a book before. It's not a small task. The kind of books that I write are roughly, I end up turning in about 70,000 plus words. It's going to be somewhere around a 280, 300 page book. And I have to, obviously you don't do that in one setting, it's multiple settings and all of that. And I'll have word count goals that I do in increments. So I got to do so many words. There's a deadline, so you count back from there and how many weeks I've got, and I've got to stay on schedule. It's like a production schedule. And so I'll have a word count that I got to hit, any particular week or day or, something like that. And I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times I have just felt like late at night, it might be 2 a.m, and I'm just at the end. I know I've got more than I'm thinking about and can say and need to say about that. I can do it tomorrow. Why can't I do it? I am spent, but just keep going, keep going, push, push, push. And that's where I've experienced this in my life a lot, that I've got a little more in me than I thought I did. And I know, relational conflicts sometimes, or difficult reaching different difficult goals, whatever it is. It really is. I mean, this is a real deal. And so I want you to look at what you feel like your perceived limits are. And without injuring yourself, push through those limits and see how far you can go before you hit the real limit. As you've probably heard me share at some point, or I've written about, and I wrote about Mark and the power of the other. I had a brother-in-law who was a Navy SEAL, and I used to love to hear all of his stories. And Mark and I we did a lot of scuba diving together. And after I finally talked him into it, because when we first met, I go, "Oh, we got to go diving," and he's kind of not really. I don't want to, and he kept kind of, and then finally he said, "Well, I don't dive with civilians." Sort of like a really good golfer not wanting to play with a 25 handicapper, right? I said, "Come on, Mark," and so we finally talked him into it, and we had a lot of great diving experiences. But we got to talking about that and his training and all the stuff that Navy SEALs do, which is insane. And one day we got to talking about free diving, and he would go. Sometimes we would be, we'd be out in the ocean, and there'd be kelp forests with we knew tuna underneath that, and he'd get a spear gun, he'd dive off the boat, free diving, no tanks or anything, and he would be gone forever. I mean, it's unbelievable how long he could stay down, and then he would come up with something. And so we were talking about holding your breath and how long you can do it and all that, and free diving. And then he said something about, well, after you drown, you find out you can go further than you thought. I said, "Excuse me, what'd you say?" He said, if you've ever drowned, you learn. I said, "What do you mean if you've ever drowned? How many people?" He said, "Oh, we drowned, in training." He said, and I can't remember. I can't remember if he said, "Well, everybody drowns in SEAL training," or if he said a lot of times people do, or sometimes I don't remember the frequency. But he said, and there's a doctor there on the side of the pool, and they pull you up and bring you back to life. He said, "Here's what I learned when I drowned." he said, "You hold your breath as long as you can. Anybody's done this in a pool, and as long as you can, and finally, I can't, and then you go up and you breathe, right?" Well, he said, if you've ever drowned, what you've actually done is you've gone all the way to the real limit. And once you hit the real limit and you drown, he said, then the fear kind of goes away and you don't really fear drowning anymore. He said, but then you find out how much space you actually have more in you to get to the drowning point. He said, there's a lot of space. You can go way further than you think you can, because your whole system is saying, go up, go up, go up. And that's a great example of this rule. I don't suggest you try to do that at all. Do not try to do that. But it is a good example. We can go further a lot of times than we think we can. Now, on the other side of this, you've often heard me say the last thing you want to do is, if you've had PTSD or other kinds of injuries, or you're coming from a difficult breakup, you don't want to go place yourself in something that's going to trigger stuff that's not healed yet. We're not talking about if you're broken or depressed or injured or something. I just had knee replacement surgery. They didn't let me, right after surgery, go do things that are going to rip open the wound or screw up what they just fixed. What I'm talking about is in your healthy areas where you want to get healthier, right? You want to get stronger. That's where this is really applicable. So, just a few thoughts about getting past that 40% rule. We think we've had all we can take. Think about mean, you got any parents out there? How many times do you hit your limit and you go, oh, there's more hours in the day than I got limited here? And sometimes we just have to take a deep breath and go to the well. And you find out that, we can develop patience when we didn't have any. So that's a good thing. All righty. I'm going to work in a little different kind of screen scenario here than you normally see me in. And we'll go over to look at our questions. I'm going to ask Jess, our callers, and I'm going to ask Jess, what are we getting over on the social world, Jess? Anybody got anything that they are posting? What do we got?
Busy on the social world today. All kinds of questions, but I have one for you. I think you'll really be able.
Give me an easy one. I want an easy one. Don't give me a hard one.
I think this might be
Friday.
Easy.
Come on.
I think you've got this. I know you do. All right. This is from Facebook. According to my spouse, I'm struggling with balancing priorities in my marriage. We both work and I spend my free time on the golf course. This seems to create conflict in our marriage. I don't understand why my spouse has an issue with me playing golf. I only play on the weekends. How can I balance work, golf, and my marriage?
What a high calling, right? Being on the golf course? I mean, why isn't the spouse just enamored with this incredible high calling? Is this a man or woman, or are they insane? You just said spouse? I'm kidding. I'm kidding, by the way. Okay, this is a really, really good question because it kind of gets into something that I think all of us married folks need to think about. And that is that sometimes we forget that there are 3 stakeholders in every marriage. Now, a stakeholder is somebody that's got an investment in something. If you're a stakeholder in a business, you've got an investment in something and you want to get a return, right? And all entities, whether it's a business or whatever, we have to make sure that our stakeholders, people that are invested in us, our stakeholders are getting their needs met, right? So we forget sometimes that in every marriage, there's 3 stakeholders. The primary stakeholder in the marriage that has to get its needs met is the relationship. That's number 1. The marriage is number 1 above each of the individuals. Okay. But if the marriage is taking up all the oxygen in the room and the husband and the wife don't have time for their stakeholders too. So you got the marriage, and you got the husband, you got the wife, and their stakeholders as well. And they have needs. So it's like we got this big, it's like a family dinner. Everybody's got to get served out of these bowls. And so a marriage has got various resources in it, right? You got time, you got energy, you got finances, you have equipment and toys, and who gets to use the house tonight? Who wants to have their friends over? Is it everybody? Are we having a family gathering? Or, the boys are coming over, or the girls are, what are we doing? And so the marriage comes first, all right? But some people want to define the marriage to the exclusion of the individuals getting their time and resources and needs that they need to get out of it as well. So I would say that if the way he or she has described this, and you didn't know which, right? Is that right, Jess?
That's correct.
Okay. The way that he or she has described this is that he or she, they work and they spend all their free time playing golf. Well, I only hear 1 point something, 1.5 stakeholder needs getting met there. In other words, I guess you're meeting some of the needs of the marriage that you're working and you're probably contributing to the family budget. Okay. So you're meeting the needs of the marriage, it sounds like, by working. But then all that free time just goes to you and your interests. So in the free time, where in the free time does the marriage get anything? Where do y'all do things as a couple? Right. And then where do the individuals get their time? And so I think what you got to do is you got to sit down and you got to figure out a budget, right? Of how much time do we need and how much time individually and money individually do we want to allocate to this is you get to do your fun things by yourself with this amount of money and you get to do yours and that way everybody's happy. Okay, but I don't hear that balance here. And so I don't know, you said your spouse says it's a matter of priorities. I get you could say that. I do think the marriage comes first, right? But the individuals have got to get their needs met as well. And what I hear is a lack of balance is exactly the right word. It's probably not. These aren't always equal, and different seasons do different things as well. Sometimes a marriage doesn't get what it's needs because somebody's in medical school, but they're also serving the marriage while they're getting their degree, right? So it's tricky, but I don't hear a good balance here. So that's the way I would answer. Got another one, Jess?
I do. All right. This one also comes from Facebook. Someone
Alrighty.
writes, our daughter and her boyfriend have been dating for 2 years. They met in college. Both of them graduate this May with mechanical engineering degrees. They've been dating seriously and discussing marriage with us and his parents. The boyfriend asked our permission to marry our daughter. We suggested they wait a year, but they are sure. So now we're being supportive. How much say do we really have in this, or should we have in this?
In terms of the timing, is that what it was?
Maybe the timing in the marriage itself.
Well, the marriage itself, okay, so let's kind of read it. I want you to read it one more time because I really want to, now that I know what it is, I want to focus on some particular wording. Say it one more time.
Okay. Our daughter and her boyfriend have been dating for 2 years. They met in college. Both of them graduate this May with mechanical engineering degrees. They have been dating seriously and discussing marriage with us and his parents. The boyfriend asked our permission to marry our daughter. We suggested they wait just another year, but they are sure. So now we are being supportive. How much say should we have in this?
Okay. Let's go from what's actually true to what's desired. Okay. And then in what's desired, what's kind of not written in stone. And here's what I mean by that. How much say do you actually have in this? You have zero say. I mean, actually, they're going to elope. I mean, they're adults. They're out of college, right? And not only legally and age-wise can they do whatever they want to, they can also pay for it. They're going to have degrees. They both have good degrees, very employable, all of that. So how much do you actually have? You actually don't have zero. But this is a spiritual value, right? That it's a family value. There's so much goodness to having all of the parties that are going to be participating in this union. And when you get married, you're not just marrying a person, you're also marrying a family. And they're marrying your family, okay? And you're creating a new family. So there's a lot of moving parts when somebody gets married. Now, can you get married without having anything to do with somebody's family? Sometimes that's advisable. I mean, there are really destructive people that sometimes have to be stayed away from, if you will. But in the normal scenario, what we really, really want is we want alignment. Okay, we want everyone. I mean, what's better than everybody celebrating these two people are getting married? It's way better than, oh gosh, I can't believe she's marrying him. What are we going to do? Well, sometimes you got to do what you can, but after it's going to happen, you better get on board because you can't let negativity go into that marriage with you being a stakeholder in that relationship as an extended family member. So, having said that, you said they're coming to you, they're talking about it. And what I would do is I would use those discussions to give your suggestions, but I would give the suggestions in the form of questions. Now, you have reasons why, in your wisdom, and I'm going to say, or lack thereof, okay, it may be in reality conventional wisdom. Maybe they wait a year, find their jobs, find their careers, blah, 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 and then get married. Sure, that makes some sense for a lot of good reasons. But I have seen situations where no, waiting is not the best thing if they're sure and they're good people and this is what they're going to do anyway. There's circumstances where waiting isn't the best thing. So who knows who's right here, but you have some strong views. So you have, and here's what I would do. I would draw a straight line, a direct line from what your concerns are of why you think they should wait another year. And I would turn those into questions. Okay. Because questions will let them sit with the tension of what you're concerned about so they can be concerned about it. So, for example, let's pretend they haven't gotten hired yet by any engineering firms or any companies. And you ask them a question. Well, okay, since you guys haven't nailed down your jobs yet, if you get married now, where are you guys going to live? And do you really want to start living somewhere and kind of putting down some kind of, or signing a long lease or whatever? Then you get a job where you might be able to be in a different place. Or have you considered how your life is going to change? You're going to be married, but then your life's going to radically change once you plug into your careers. What are you going to do with that? And I would just bring up whatever your concerns are, bring up those questions and let them mull those over. And then at the end of the day, say, look, we would rather you guys wait, but we love both of you and we're supportive of your relationship and we'll stand by you no matter what, which way you're going to do. So I turn them into, at that point, you're dealing with adults and they get married when they want to, so become their ally, not their enemy. That's what I would do. Now, I hope my daughters aren't listening to this because I'm going to try to control them and say, you can only get married to who I've said you when you. No, I'm kidding. But you feel that way, right? This is my baby. Ah, scary. Okay, let's go to the callers here. Got to go to another device to do this. And where are we? Victoria. That's a beautiful name. My wife's name is Victoria, who's calling us from Facebook, who has been having trouble succeeding in career pursuits, reading books that give her lots of different priorities. She's having trouble identifying the obstacles and causes for negative thinking. That can be a tough one. Victoria, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show. Hello. There you are.
Oh,
How are
I can hear you now. You went away for a minute now. I can hear you.
It's like a cell phone commercial.
I'm so glad
Can you hear me now? There you are.
I'm so glad
what's
to
up?
speak to you. I've been a fan of your work, and your call screener is just delightful.
Isn't Albie great? Let's show some love to Albie. Can we see some bubbles come up on the different platforms? There we go. So tell me what I can do for you.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to get unstuck. I had a different business for probably about 10 years in the entertainment industry, and COVID killed that. So
wait a minute, different than what? Different than what you're doing now?
Different than what I'm in right now, yes.
Okay, and was the one you were, what was your previous business, can I ask?
I was in the entertainment industry. I was a celebrity impersonator.
A celebrity
And
impersonator.
yes, I would perform concerts because I'm a singer, playing in the role of Celine Dion or Barbara Streisand or Stevie
Oh my
Nicks.
gosh. Well, can't
Um,
we hear a little bit?
any requests?
All right. Albie, Jess, who do you want to hear? Celine Dion? You want to hear
Celine
Stevie
Dion.
Nicks?
I'd like to hear
Celine
Celine
Dion.
Dion.
Okay, Jess wants to hear Celine Dion.
Okay.
Far. Okay.
Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that my heart will go on. And then I'd pound my chest and
Oh my gosh, I
repeat
feel like
everything.
I'm on a big ship about ready to go down. Wasn't that from Titanic? Have I got that right? Have I got that right?
Yes.
Wow, what a
And she
voice. What
didn't
a
want to
voice.
record that song. Well, thank you so much.
Well,
But COVID killed that
now that's
business.
disappeared because COVID, because of gatherings and entertainment things weren't happening. So then what? But you did that for 10 years.
So yeah, I did. And it was great. And then all of a sudden, literally within a week, it was gone.
Yeah.
And I was, all right, Lord, now what do I do? So I felt moved to go into this other area, that something I had done many years before. Is basically direct sales company, work from home business, which I gave up when I had the chance to have my show. And so that was awesome. And I'm 58 years old and had a long path in life, but now everything's awesome except this one area. And when I started this business, it was going great. And I was, in production to get a car from the company and all this other stuff. And then about 4 months or so ago, it just
When
stopped.
did you start it? When did you start it?
I started a little over a year ago.
Wow. And within a year, you got to the place where you're going to win a car. I mean, that's a lot of direct sales. I don't know a company, but that's a lot if they're going to give you a car, right? So you were winning.
It was
you were doing
great.
well.
I was doing real well. And then just about 4 months ago, I don't exactly know what happened. Things just started not going well. And you expect, everything has ups and downs, but when it's going on 4 months, all right, something's going on. So I started looking at different resources and books and things to try to figure it out.
No, hold on a
and
second.
everyone has a different
Before
opinion.
You get to the of course they do. But before you get to the different opinions, what you said it stopped. What stopped? How did you?
Well,
in other words,
I would
let's put
book
it this way.
parties and appointments, and they would suddenly they would just not hold. People would cancel not reschedule, and that always happens, to some degree. But it was just so excessive to where it's never been like that for so long. So I started wondering, I'm not doing anything different. So is God trying to get my attention? Is my
so you
were
certain you weren't doing anything different?
Yeah, and I was talking to my uplines and going over things, doing everything I was told, and things that I know from experience. And it's like I wasn't doing anything different.
Were you doing the same things that other people were doing? Here's a diagnostic question I want you to run. Okay, were you doing the same things that other people were doing and theirs was working, even though you're doing the same things?
Right.
Or were they doing the same things and wasn't working for them either?
No, I was doing the same things as other people, and I would hear crickets and they would be doing fine.
Interesting. Okay.
And I was confused by that.
It is confusing.
So, some of these books, like one of them's, well, your negative self-talk is stopping you from succeeding. And another one's like, all right, well, maybe you're not trusting God enough. And another one's like, all right, well, maybe God's trying to get your attention about something. And, too many hands. It's like an octopus trying to tell, each hand has a different. So I guess my question, the bottom line is, how do I find out which the right thing is to look at so I can get unstuck and move forward again?
And you still have the desire to do the same thing, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of almost was like, all right, Lord, are you trying to tell me I should be looking at something else? But I couldn't think of anything else to be doing, that I would want to do. So I'm just trying to figure out, I want to do his will for his life, for my life. But,
sometimes,
all right, what's correct?
Okay, so let's talk about the God piece for a moment, just about this. I have, in my life, and a lot of other people that I know, and a lot of situations I've worked with professionally, that sometimes, we have the old saying, right? When God closes a door, then he opens another one, right? Mm-hmm. And I kind of, in my experience, kind of trying to figure out, is God telling me this about, because this isn't working and this and the other. I have seen so many things, incredible things, that God is totally in and working, and it's meant to be, and it is terrible going for quite a long time. It just doesn't look like anything is happening. How can this be? And then it works, right? It goes well, and he certainly was. So I don't know if we can always. I know we can't always tell just because something is hitting a downtime or obstacles that means God is trying to tell us something else. Now, I do think that sometimes when you get to the end, there are times, you have gotten to the end, and so we know that is a closed door, right? Sometimes we just at the end out of money. I mean, there's no other option, and that's kind of how I tend to look at it. I give you an example. When I first had the vision to start a hospital company, I wanted to do, a Christian psychiatric hospital treatment center and all that, and went out originally raising the money to buy a hospital, and worked on that for quite a while, and just hit slam door after slam door after slam door after slam door. There were a lot of regulatory reasons, and anyway, and so then had to change the model, and then the model went to go into existing med surg hospitals and taking over a unit, and converting it to psych, and then we had to talk public hospitals and having a faith-based psychiatric unit. A lot of obstacles. Okay, I didn't get a paycheck for 4 years when we were starting that company. 4 years, and then in year 4, everything finally turned around, and very, very fruitful for a long time. So I don't know. And I've seen so many situations like that for ministries where they go through really hard times, and who knows what God's purpose is in that. One of the things is we do know that from suffering and all that it builds patience and perseverance, and you learn a lot. So I wouldn't necessarily say he's trying to tell you something, but here's what I would do. If you're pretty certain, and with all you know now, that this is what you want, okay, and you like it, and you're gifted in it, and you've been successful in it, then that's the point where you said you talked to your upline. I would drill down very specifically, and I would want to begin to have them actually step into my circle and sit with me while I do the calls. Come with me while I do the meetings, and just kind of see if there's sometimes we might not know something that we're doing or not doing that somebody else could see. And then I would do the opposite. I would watch them. I would, as a golfer, I'd caddy for them, right, when they play the game, and to see what I could learn. Because sometimes we can go through things where we do shift something we're doing and we don't know it. All right. A. B, you're reading this stuff about the negative self-talk. Do you think you have negative self-talk?
I know that's something I had to work on because my background.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was mentally ill and she did her best under the circumstances. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
faulting her. But, basically, she would tell me, you're not very smart, but you're real pretty. So it's okay. Some nice man will marry you and take care of you.
Oh,
And,
wow. Wow.
just she didn't mean anything by it. She thought it was a compliment. She didn't know any better,
We're
but,
not trying to make her
and then my
bad,
first
but
marriage was
look,
a train wreck. No, yeah.
Yeah, if somebody for whatever reason they have a limp and they can't walk straight, we understand that. But if they step on your toe, it still hurts, right? So
Yeah.
whatever her mental disability was, she ended up stepping on your brain and putting some stuff in there that still hurts. So you don't have to make her bad or blame her to acknowledge the reality of there's some negative stuff I need to get in my head. So here's what I want you to do about that. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this is you, but it could be. Sometimes I know this has happened to me in various times. Sometimes what goes on in our head really does affect what we're going to do on the outside. If we're having certain thoughts, I knew this as a competitive golfer. Once the mental thing changed, the external game was going to change. That's just the way it works. And so the first step in that is I just want you to, in your presentations, whether it's calls or talking to people on the phone or sitting down and explaining the business to them or having a party or whatever it is, I want you to just be doing that, but I want you to be monitoring the thoughts in your head. People should do this in their dating lives because they're saying, "Oh, I'm too this," or "I'm not this enough." He or she's not going to. I want you to just monitor and see what some of those things are going on in your head because it actually, in sales, it's a big deal. That actually will affect the biochemical kind of quantum physics transfer that's going on in a conversation because your energy goes down, expressions change, mirror neurons. There's a lot that goes on in the selling cycle that has to do with what you're trying to do is you're trying to lead somebody to a conclusion that's going to involve trusting you, and there's a lot that plays into that. So it could be stuff in your head that's kind of interfering with this, but I just want you to monitor it. And then if you monitor it,
you could
then
be doing.
What?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was like, so you can be doing and saying the right words, but
Sure.
if your head is, if you're thinking to yourself, well, they're going to probably blow me off too, it could still happen that way just because you're thinking it that way.
Yeah, because your energy is going to change, right? And
that's a thing.
That's what?
Huh.
It is a thing.
So that really is a thing.
Well, think about when you're a performer. I mean, if Celine Dion got up on the stage and she's like, "Well, they're not going to like me near, far, wherever." I don't know if they're like, is that guy thinking about? She's totally changed. Whether or any performer, then if they're in it and they're lost in the experience and they're singing and they're present, the people get engaged. And yeah, certainly that changes dating, it changes coaching, it changes performances, it changes just people. Energy is a real thing. And I'm not talking about new age kind of stuff. I'm talking about the energy of our heart, mind, and soul and strength that shows up in anything. That's why in sales, people have to practice so much so they gain that confidence because that confidence is contagious. So I don't know if that's going on, but that may be. So I would look to the very practical stuff that we know works of coaching and observing and getting some coaching and getting some observation and then learning from the experts. You're doing a great thing. You're very humble to go get curious and find out about all this and then go learn. And then I'd monitor my head and keep going. If you finally hit the wall, you hit the wall. Then you can ask God, You can ask him along the way too. What am I doing? God will give you wisdom, but that's how I would approach it. Okay. Wish we had more time, but
Okay.
that's kind of how I would look at it. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
You're right. You know what? I'm going to gift you. I have a 2-hour webinar called Crush. Jess, is this right? Crush Your 22. Is that right?
Yes, Crush Your 2022.
Okay. We've got a goal reaching webinar, all the kind of stuff that goes into our reaching our goals. And I'm going to gift that to you, give it out your info. And anybody else who wants to do that, go to boundaries.me/ what, Jess? Goals?
I got to check on that URL. I'm sorry.
They can also just go to the store.
Yeah, if you go to the store,
store.
boundaries.me/store, you can find that. And so there we go. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Cloud.
You're very welcome, and good luck. Good luck in your business. Sometimes that business model, obviously, like any kind of profession or business, is not for everybody, but for the people that are gifted in it and do well, and they do it well and correctly, not only can they be very successful, but actually change the lives of other people by helping them be successful and done well. I'm a fan. Okay, so Jess, what is how are we doing on time here? What is our next one from the social world that we got?
Alrighty, this one comes from Facebook to us, and someone asks, I'm struggling over my feelings and thoughts of an ex-boyfriend. It's been a long time since we stopped seeing each other, but I can't stop thinking about him. How do I stop ruminating?
Well, that's a good question. It could be a lot of different ways. Sometimes that is a delayed grief reaction. If this is an ex and it's truly an ex, you might have to have a little funeral, that you haven't really accepted the fact that it is over. And it's very hard to grieve something if we still have hope, right? So have you really accepted this? And if there's no reason for that hope, then you might have to kind of get to the, grief has a denial period in it. In every loss, our system doesn't want to accept that. No, that can't be. There's got to be a way. We can turn that, and sometimes you can get stuck in that denial thing and I don't mean you're not saying that it's over, but your system hasn't said that it's over. So your system hasn't done the grieving that it needs to do. So you might want to look at, have you really looked yourself in the mirror and said, this is over? He's not coming back. I got to move on. Now, to do that, you're also going to need some people around you to keep reminding you of that, but also to walk through that pain with you. And you got to begin to express a bunch of stuff as you go through that process. So it's kind of a normal grieving process, A. B, you could be in the problems of grieving what we call, it happens in complicated bereavement is the technical term, but it's hard to grieve a person that's not real. So here's what I mean by that. In this relationship, there were good things and there were bad things, enough bad things to where it is no longer a relationship. It is an ex relationship. Okay. And so sometimes when people lose someone for whatever reason that they don't want to lose, or maybe you're the one that broke up, you did want to lose, but now you're thinking about him over and over and over. What you're doing is you're longing for the good parts of him, but you're not thinking about the negative parts of him, because as long as you're thinking about, oh, we used to have these wonderful times and we were so close and he was so this and he was so that, and that's who you're thinking about, that person doesn't exist. That's not a real person. The real person was the one who all those things were true of, and he wasn't fully committed, and he kind of halfway liked me, and he was off and again and on again, or he cheated on me, or he was kind of distant sometimes and controlling, or he's too much into his hobbies and abandoned. See, that's the real person. And once you begin to look at that whole picture, then your system can actually begin to integrate that and let go of something. It is very, very difficult to grieve an idealized love object. I mean, why in the world would our system want to let go of something that's perfect? It doesn't. But you got to see this as real. The third thing is that it may be that it's tapping into previously unworked through losses in your life that you're kind of working out symbolically through this. And that can get into if you've been abandoned or you had big losses in your life before him, that there's some deeper work that's kind of getting played out on this stage. It's sort of like a symbolic representation that happens to people. And you got to kind of sit down with a good shrink and kind of say, what other losses is this tapping into that I'm not finished with, that I'm actually feeling with his face on it? And there's some work that needs to be done then. Then you got the ruminating thing. And I think you probably need to do some tricks for ruminating. If you look at, for example, thought stopping is what the cognitive people will tell you, which basically you've got to, thought stopping is a little bit like, okay, don't think of a white elephant for the next 5 seconds. Everybody, don't think of a white elephant right now. Okay, don't think of that. Well, how are you going to not think about what you're thinking about, not thinking about? Okay, that's stupid. That's not going to work. But what you can do is see it's very difficult to not do something. I tell this to golfers all the time who, they got to change their brain. And they stand up there and they're afraid because, there's a lake on the right-hand side of the fairway. And they'll go, okay, don't hit it in the lake. Well, how the heck are you going to not hit it in the lake? You can't not hit it in the lake. What you can do, that's not actionable. It's not actionable to say, I'm not going to do something. What I can do is something I can that actually is actionable is if the lake's on the right, I can say, okay, hit it down the left side. I can intentionally do that. That's something I can do. So you can't not think about him, but what you can do is you can get involved in life and begin to think about some other things. So we divert our attention and you learn, it's like a bird flying by. You don't grab that bird, you go play chess or you go whatever it is you're going to do. And I would get back out there and get in the world. And what's going to happen is you're going to find out there's other men on the planet besides this guy. So, you got to attend to life. You got to get involved in life. So somewhere in all of that. And I'm going to also suggest we're speaking a lot about the webinars today on the website. If you go to the store at boundaries.me, there is a webinar called How to Get a Date Worth Keeping. And it's going to, I think, help with some of that as well. All righty, we got just a few minutes here. Why don't we take one more from social before we sign off for the day? And Jess, what would the next question be?
All right, this one comes from YouTube, and someone asks, how do you handle someone who tries to use guilt to manipulate you? When I try to address it, they won't listen to the hurt it causes me. Instead, they turn it back to how they are hurting.
Well, we can only be manipulated if we need something from somebody. So, for example, Jess, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, so I want you to manipulate me with guilt. Okay. Think about, okay, I'm signing off and I'm not going to have time to take any more questions today, but you want to have me do that. So I want you to manipulate me to do that.
But Henry, we have all these people who have all these questions who have come in. I mean, are you just going to let them hanging like this? I mean, what if they don't have a good weekend and they're going to be thinking about it a lot?
Hey, Jess, you know what? That's really sad. That's a sad deal. I told you I got to go. And that's all I can do for today. Sorry. I know that's frustrating, but I got to run. Okay. See ya. All right. Now, the caller or the question said, now you're going to flip that around, right? And you're going to protest that in some way. So do that.
But I mean, these people really need you to like stay on longer and answer these questions. And
Hey,
because
Jess. I don't know. Did you not hear me a moment ago?
I mean, yeah, but
Yeah. Okay. So you heard me. Look, now that you've heard me, I don't want to say it again. And I really, I do feel for them, but it's not something that I'm going to choose to do right now because I got some other stuff that I need to go do. So I'm sorry it's frustrating. And you know what? That's kind of the last I want to talk about this. If you want to talk about something else, we can. But okay, hit pause. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to tell her, oh, your manipulation is hurting me and all this kind, because she doesn't care. I mean, if she cared, I could tell her that. You said you've already tried to tell this person and express to you, and they don't listen. So why would you keep trying to explain your hurt to somebody who doesn't care about your hurt? They only care about themselves. So don't do that. So just empathize. Sorry, I can't do what you're wanting. And I really don't want to talk about it anymore. If you want to go get some apple pie, I'd love that. You can, there's other things we can do, but talking about that, that's not one of them. All righty. Sorry, Jess.
I forgive you.
Oh, manipulation. How much fun is that? That's just a blast, right? Okay, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today because unfortunately, actually, I would love to sit here and be here and talk way more about a bunch of stuff, and we will do that at another time. But today I got to run, and I want to remind you one more time, though, there is going to be an upcoming event that we can get to talk a lot during, or I will, and that is on April 12th, a 2-hour live webinar, 2-hour plus. I always end up going over. April 12th, 5 p.m. Pacific, live, called Mentally Healthy Faith, Dr. Cloud's prescription for spiritual growth. And in this webinar, I'm going to be talking about the kind of faith practices that I believe scriptures talk about and also that are mentally healthy for us. Because there is a lot of toxic faith out there and a lot of crazy churches and crazy spiritual leaders that will put stuff on you that will make your brains disintegrate and have green worms crawling through them and make lions and tigers and bears appear before your eyes. You know what I mean? It's just not good. It screws up your head. And it's not in the Bible. And they use Bible verses to justify it sometimes. So I'm going to go a lot into some of that, but also the main emphasis is what's healthy. You know, what is, in my view, what does spiritual development look like? What causes spiritual growth? What is spiritual formation that is vibrant and has value in our lives? A little bit's going to be about how I do it personally, but also from the research and other stuff. So that is coming up April 12th. Sign up now for early bird pricing. You're going to save some money on your registration. And then if you can't be there live, you can stream it afterwards for sure, as many times as you want. Invite your friends over, invite a small group over and say, hey, you want to come hear a psychologist talk about faith, but how it could be mentally healthy and not crazy? Yeah, might be fun. Here's how you register. Go to boundaries.me/faith to get signed up. And while you're there, check out boundaries.me, the platform. All there is there to offer is become a subscriber and you get to go look at all that. Okay. We'll see you next time.